द्यायुर्नष्टभगना भौर्गैः सविद्युत्स्थानयित्नुभिः वर्षद्भिः पूयकेशास्त्रेग् विन्मुत्रास्थीनि चासकृत्. The luminaries in outer space disappeared due to the skies being overcast with masses of clouds, which were accompanied by lightning and thunder. The sky rained pus, hair, blood, stool, urine, and bones. Girayah pratyadrishyanta nanayudhamucho nagha digvasaso yatu dhanyah shulinya muktamurdhajaha. O sinless Vidura, mountains discharge weapons of various kinds, and naked demonesses armed with tridents appear with their hair hanging loose. Bahubhiryaksharakshobhihi patyashvarathgunjaraihi atatayibhir utsrishta himsrovacho ativaishasaha. Cruel and savage slogans were uttered by hosts of ruffians, yakshas and rakshasas, who all either marched on foot or rode on horses, elephants or chariots. Verse number 22. Pradushkritanam mayanam pradushkritanam mayanam asurinam vinashaya Sudarshanastram Bhagavan Prayukta Daitum Tripa Prayukta Daitam Tripa Prayukta Daitam Tripa Pradushkritanam mayanam Asurinam vinashaya Sudarshanastram Bhagavan Prayukta Daitam Tripa Pradushkritanam mayanam Asurinam vinashayat Sudarshanastram Bhagavan Prayukta Daitam Tripa. Pradushkritanam displayed, Mayanam the magical forces, Asurinam displayed by the demon, Vinashayat desiring to destroy, Sudarshana Astram the Sudarshana weapon, Bhagavan the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Prayukta through, Daitam beloved, Tripat the enjoyer of all sacrifices. The Lord, the personal enjoyer of all sacrifices, now discharged his beloved Sudarshana, which was capable of dispersing the magical forces displayed by the demon. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Even famous yogis and demons can sometimes enact very magical feats by their mystic power. But in the presence of the Sudarshana Chakra, when it is let loose by the Lord, all such magical jugglery is dispersed. The instance of the quarrel between Durvasa Muni and Ambarish Maharaj is a practical example in this matter. Durvasa Muni wanted to display many magical wonders, but when the Sudarshan Chakra appeared, Durvasa himself was afraid and fled to various planets for his personal protection. The Lord is described here as Tripath, which means that he is the enjoyer of three kinds of sacrifices. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord confirms that he is the beneficiary and enjoyer of all sacrifices, penances, and austerities. The Lord is the enjoyer of three kinds of yajna. As further described in Bhagavad Gita, there are sacrifices of goods, sacrifices of meditation, and sacrifices of philosophical speculation. Those on the paths of jnana, yoga, and karma all have to come in the end to the Supreme Lord, because Vasudeva Sarvam Iti. The Supreme Lord is the ultimate enjoyer of everything. That is the perfection of all sacrifice. Please repeat the translation. The Lord, the personal enjoyer of all sacrifices, now discharged his beloved Sudarshana, which was capable of dispersing the magical forces displayed by the demon. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So here we are seeing in this battle between the demon and the Supreme Lord, a big fight is going on the Garbhodaka ocean between the demon Hiranyaksha and the Supreme Lord, who has descended as Lord Varaha. And in the last 4 or 5 verses that we saw, these demons have a lot of power, yogic power. And by his mystical power, the demon is trying to create a very unfavorable situation or a very fearful situation. He is thinking that by creating such a fearful situation, the Lord will become afraid. Yad bibheti swayam bhayam. It is said that the Lord, even fear personified, fears the Lord. And the demon is thinking that by creating such magical jugglery, the Lord will, get afraid. So here, what are the magical feats he creates? It's all being mentioned. Stones are coming as volleys, as if thrown by machine guns. There is the sky is raining pus, hair, blood, stool, urine, bones. These are not just stories, these are actual facts. This actually goes on to show how much power even a demon possessed at that time. This was the kind of learning they had. And mountains discharged weapons of various kind, and yakshas and rakshasas marched on foot, rode on horses, elephants and chariots. And when all this was happening, the Lord is enjoying, right? For the Lord it's a game. He's playing. He's enjoying the fight with, we have been reading from the last few weeks how the Lord is actually enjoying his fight with the demon Hiranyaksha. And it's all, he wanted to fight, and so this demon has come. The demon Hiranyaksha is actually the Lord's devotee, but he has come here to engage, to give Lord the pleasure of fighting. So when all this magical spell was being created, what did the Lord do? The Lord discharged his beloved Sudarshana. And this Sudarshana is capable of dispersing the magical forces that was displayed by the demon. So here in the purport, Prabhupada is referring to another very famous, a very interesting pastime where the Lord had once again used his Sudarshan Chakra. This time the Lord is using his Sudarshan Chakra to protect, to kill the demon. Another pastime that the Lord used his Sudarshan Chakra, as being mentioned in this purport, is the pastime of Ambarish Maharaj and Durvasa Muni, where Durvasa Muni, who was a very accomplished yogi, but a puffed up yogi, he also tried to display some magical power and tried to punish the Lord's great devotee Ambarish Maharaj. And at that time also the Lord used his Sudarshan Chakra for protecting Ambarish Maharaj. So this is a very interesting pastime from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and let us hear this pastime and see what are the things that a devotee can learn. So when Maharaj Parikshit was hearing the stories of the Lord's wonderful pastimes from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukdev Goswami mentioned that there was once a great ruler, Ambarish Maharaj, who was a very exalted devotee, and he was cursed by Durvasa Muni. But the curse of Durvasa Muni did not touch Ambarish Maharaj because of his being an exalted devotee. Maharaj Ambarish was so exalted. Actually, at that time, Maharaj Ambarish was ruling the entire world. And the amount of wealth that Maharaj Ambarish possessed, as explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam, was inexhaustible and unlimited. So much wealth that even if he would give away wealth as much as required in charity to be given to all the Brahmanas, he would still possess unlimited wealth. That was his opulence. And in spite of possessing so much of wealth, what was the consciousness that Maharaj Ambarish would maintain? He would think that all the wealth and opulence and the prosperity that he possesses is nothing but a dream. Just see the stark difference. A non-devotee or an ordinary materialist, he only dreams of possessing wealth. If a materialist has got no wealth, actually whether we have wealth or don't have wealth, all of us in the material world dream of possessing a lot of wealth, and that dream gives us a lot of pleasure, all illusory pleasure. But here on the other hand, we see Maharaj Ambarish, although he possessed so much of wealth, he would think, what is all this wealth? It's just like a dream. Why? Because he was completely conscious of the fact that all this wealth is temporary. And I'm living in this body, and very soon I'm going to give up this body, and this lifetime is so short, so temporary, that it's there with me today, it will not be there with me tomorrow. And my life is eternal. So what is the use of possessing this wealth for a short period and getting entangled into it? So he thought, it's a dream. He would consider, Maharaj Ambarish, the entire universe to be like a stone. No value. So that was the consciousness he maintained. And In spite of possessing so much of wealth, so much of opulence, Maharaj Ambarish's mind, it's very easy to get swayed by possessing so much of wealth and opulence, right? So you can imagine the exalted position of Maharaj Ambarish, that in spite of possessing so much of wealth and opulence, his mind was constantly focused on thinking the Lord, serving the Lord, and doing devotional activities for the Lord. You know that famous verse, Savai mana Krishna padara vindayo vachamsi vaikuntha gunanu varnane. Savai mana Krishna padara vindayo. His mind was constantly absorbed in thinking about the Lord. Vachamsi vaikuntha gunanu varnane. And vachamsi, his words, he was always using it for describing the glories of the Vaikuntha. His eyes he was using always in seeing the beautiful forms of the Lord. His head in bowing down before the Lord. His nose in smelling the tulsi leaf offered to the lotus feet of the Lord. So in other words, in spite of possessing so much of opulence and prosperity, Maharaj Ambarish's mind was completely fixed in thinking about the Lord, in serving the Lord. And in whatever activities he would do, his goal was how to satisfy the Supreme Lord. He once performed an Ashwamegha Yagna, a huge yagna. The goal was to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Maharaj Ambarish, not just he was engaged in devotional service, thinking about the Lord, he trained his subjects, all the people in his kingdom, also to develop this understanding that devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the highest, and a person who has taken this human form of life should not be aspiring after anything but devotional service to Krishna without any material desires. And it is said that during Maharaj Ambarish's time, when he was ruling the entire world, all his subjects, ordinary people, ordinary praja, even they were free from all material desires. Even the ordinary subjects did not desire elevation to heavenly planet and lot of opulence. Even they desired going back to the spiritual world and devotional service to the Supreme Lord. This is the power of a leader being a devotee. This is the influence he can have. Imagine, even an ordinary praja, subject, developed this desire of had no material desires. They desired only in attaining devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they were only interested in his devotional service. So once, Maharaj Ambarish, he observed an Ekadashi Vrata. And he observed it for 1 year. Did all the Ekadashi, Dwadashi. He observed the Vrata for 1 year. And at the end of this 1 year Vrata, he had to break it here because the Vrata is completed when he was fasting. The Ekadashi fast he was observing. And it has to be broken. It is completed, the Vrata is completed in a certain way by breaking it on the Dwadashi, just like we do. So, before breaking the Vrata on the Dwadashi, he performed some austerities, and for 3 nights before that, he fasted. And then he went and took his bath in the river Yamuna, and he did puja, performed worship to the Supreme Lord. He had a deity of Krishna. He performed the Abhisheka ceremony nicely, bathed the Lord with Panchamrita and all the other various paraphernalias, offered the Lord garlands, flowers, food, and like this. And after the puja was over, generally after any puja or after any homa, you're supposed to give charity to the Brahmanas, right? A worship, a religious ritual is not supposed to be complete without giving charity to the Brahmanas. That's a very important part. So Maharaj Ambarish, what charity he gave to the Brahmanas and the guests who had assembled there? Generally in the Vedic time, the best charity was cows. Even now it is the same. If we get a cow donation, people who have a lot of sentiment, who understand the value of cow and donating a cow to the temple, still come and give us a cow. So Maharaj Ambarish, that time, how many cows he gave in charity? He gave 60 crore cows in charity to the Brahmanas, 600 million cows. And each of these cows, it is mentioned, their horns were decorated with golden plates. and their hooves were decorated with silver plates, actual thick silver plate, just like the kavacha you put. And all the cows were very nicely dressed, lot of nice, costly, expensive garments, and the milk bags were full, and all the cows were accompanied with their calves. And these cows, Bhagavatam describes very nicely, these cows and calves were very mild, very young, and very beautiful. So this was the amount of charity he gave. And then after giving this charity, he fed all the brahmanas, all the assembled guests. And then, after all of them were satisfied with nice prasadam and all charity and offering been given to them, at that time, it was just the time when Maharaj Ambarish had to break his fast also. So he prayed to all the assembled guests, and then he asked for their permission whether he could break his fast. And all of them were very happy and satisfied, all the brahmanas. And then the brahmana said, yes, now you may break your vow that you have been observing for 1 year, the Ekadashi and Dwadashi, so you may break it now. So at that time, Maharaj Ambarish, he was about to break his fast, and just at that time, exactly at that moment, there appeared on that scene a very powerful brahmana, or a yogi rather, not a brahmana, I'm sorry, a yogi, a very powerful yogi, and he was Durvasa Muni. And Bhagavatam describes he was an uninvited guest. But anyway, he is a very powerful yogi and a very accomplished yogi. So Maharaj Ambarish could not break it immediately because he just appeared when he was breaking. So Maharaj Ambarish received him very respectfully and offered him a nice seating place, offered him a worship with all the paraphernalia, and then very humbly Maharaj Ambarish sat at his feet of Durvasa Muni, and requested him to please take prasadam, offered him food. So Durvasa Muni was very pleased with the way he was received by Ambarish Maharaj, and then Durvasa Muni told him that okay, I will definitely take prasadam, but first I must go and complete my rituals. I have not finished it today, and before I eat, I have to complete my rituals. Because the yogis and munis, they have their own ritual. So Maharaj Ambarish said, fine, and then Durvasa Muni went, and he went to Yamuna, and he started performing his rituals, started doing his little bit of meditation and things like that. And here Maharaj Ambarish was waiting for Durvasa Muni's return. And time is going by, and Durvasa Muni is not returning because he's engaged in his rituals. And here, the time is fast passing. There was a particular muhurta in which Ambarish Maharaj had to break his fast. If he wouldn't break his fast in that muhurta, then his observance of vow would become useless. His vow wouldn't be complete. And he has to complete the vow. And all this was actually for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not for himself. So, he started to think, he started pondering what should be done. Because he was caught up in a complex situation. That on one hand, he has to break the vow, because he has to complete the vow, he has to break the fast. Because if he doesn't break the fast at the right time, then the Supreme Personality of Godhead will not be satisfied. And on the other hand, if he breaks it, breaking the vow means what? By eating something. And if he breaks it, Durvasa Muni will be very dissatisfied, because it's a Vedic injunction that when guests come, they have to be respectfully treated. And what is the first respectful treatment? That when guests come, they should be fed first before you take your food. Unless they are fed first, you should not eat. So now he was caught up in this dilemma, what to do, whether he should break his vow or whether he should and how to manage Durvasa Muni, and he knew Durvasa Muni's temper. So he consulted the Brahmanas, and after consulting the Brahmanas, they came at this conclusion that Ambarish Maharaj drinks little water. And by drinking water is considered to be both breaking the fast, at the same time not eating. In the Bhagavatam, it is described, Ahu, it is said, Apa bhakshanam. Apa means water, bhakshanam. If you drink water, Vipraha, O Brahmanas, Asitam na asitam. Asitam means it is considered apa bhakshanam. Drinking water is considered asitam, eating, na asitam, as well as not eating. Tat, and this is what is mentioned in the scriptures. So Maharaj Ambarish took the support of this injunction, took the advantage of this injunction, and he sipped a little water. And he was waiting. There Durvasa Muni, after finishing all his rituals, he comes back. And when he comes back, Maharaj Ambarish again receives him very well. But because Durvasa Muni was a powerful mystic, because he had that yogic power to see what has happened, he understood that Ambarish Maharaj has broken his vow in this manner. Actually, this was no fault on Ambarish Maharaj's part. He just took a little water, and it's nothing. And the scriptures also support this, that it's not breaking fast at all. It's breaking a fast, but not really eating at all. So Durvasa Muni got very upset, very angry, red with anger, and he started blaspheming Ambarish Maharaj. And he told him, Ambarish, you think you are a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but actually you are not. You had invited me, and after inviting me, you have misbehaved with me. Actually, he was not invited. He was actually an uninvited guest. But anyway, he was a powerful yogi. So he said, I am going to teach you a lesson. You have offended me today. This is not the way, this is not the etiquette with which you should have behaved. This is a great offense that you have done. And so because of this offense, and he told him so many things, blasphemed Ambarish Maharaj left and right. And he said, because of this great offense, today I am going to punish you. And what was the punishment? He pulled out some few hair from his head. This is the power of a yogi. He pulled out some hair from his head and did something, chanted some mantras or something, and that hair from his head converted into a big fiery demon. And, just take a few minutes, and that fiery demon that Durvasa Muni produced by his yogic power, he released it to destroy Ambarish Maharaj. And it is said that that fiery demon, how powerful demon, Durvasa Muni was no ordinary Muni. He was a very powerful Muni. So because he was so powerful, the demon that he produced also was very powerful. It is mentioned in the Bhagavatam that when the demon was produced and he told the demon to go and destroy Ambarish Maharaj, as the demon was moving towards Ambarish Maharaj, with every step that he took, the demon was shaking the earth. The earth was trembling. That was the power that the demon had. Now imagine if you are faced in this situation. A huge powerful demon is standing in front of you to destroy you. What would your reaction be? You'll get so disturbed. You'll be like this, right? Look at the power of devotional service. Maharaj Ambarish, because he was a devotee, when this situation came in front of him, the demon, a fiery demon is standing ready to devour him, Maharaj Ambarish was not the least disturbed in his mind. In the Bhagavad Gita it says that, even if you're faced the greatest difficulty, you'll not be disturbed at all if you are situated on the platform of devotional service. So, not just he was not disturbed the least in the mind, he did not even slightly move from his position. No, you get disturbed and then you move and you don't know what to do. He did not even move from his position. He was just standing very peacefully, very quietly. And thirdly, okay, he was not disturbed in his mind. He did not even slightly shake or move from his position. He did not even call out to the Lord requesting him to be protected. That also he did not do. So what was he doing? He did not even call out the Lord for protection. He was simply absorbed in thinking about the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That was all that he was doing. And that thinking about the Supreme Personality of Godhead was giving him so much pleasure, so much happiness, that big fiery demon in front of him wanting to devour him, all this was like phantasmagoria, Prabhupada's words. It didn't affect him at all. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, this is a practical story we see. Bhagavad Gita, what is Krishna saying? Macchitta sarva durgani tarishyasi. If you're thinking of me, all the durgani, all the obstacles, tarishyasi. And if you're not thinking of me, if you're acting out of ahankara, vinangshasi. So Krishna is always there to protect his devotees. And Maharaj Ambarish was situated on that platform. He was just thinking about the Lord. He knew that the Lord is there and he will take care of him. He did not have to ask the Lord anything. So, this was the situation. And what happened after that? We know the Lord was there. He was observing everything. The Lord is always there in the heart of his devotees. So the Sudarshan disc came, and the Sudarshan disc immediately destroyed the demons to ashes. The demon was finished instantly. It is described, Bhagavatam gives a very nice example of this demon and Krishna and devotional service. Just like a snake, a poisonous snake is very powerful and very dangerous. But in a forest fire, even a poisonous snake becomes very afraid and fearful. He runs for his life. Because in a forest fire, the poisonous snake has no hope. Because the snake is on the ground. It is said that in a forest fire, the first animals to be destroyed are the ones crawling on the ground. So the snake, a fearful poisonous snake is also destroyed. So Krishna with his Sudarshan disc destroyed the snake-like demon, and as the snake is destroyed in a forest fire, so here what was the fire? The fire was the fire of devotional service of Ambarish Maharaj. Ambarish Maharaj was not such a great mystic, great yogi, having attained lot of yogic powers, nothing he had. But he had the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which was greater than all the power, all the magical feats that Durvasa Muni had obtained. He was so powerful that Durvasa Muni, although he was of a material world, he could go even to the spiritual world. So that was the power that he had, and so the demon was destroyed, and after the demon was destroyed, the Sudarshan disc, after destroying the demon, started following Durvasa Muni. Because the Supreme Personality of Godhead, if devotees are offended, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not happy. In fact, he is very angry. Even if you offend the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord does not take it as an offense because he is very merciful. But when his devotees are offended, the Lord takes it very seriously because he loves his devotees so much. The devotees have surrendered everything for him. So this disc now starts following Durvasa Muni. And Durvasa Muni starts running. He now realizes what a great mistake he has done. So Durvasa Muni flees for his life. And it is said that Durvasa Muni starts going everywhere. He goes in the sky, he goes deep inside the ocean. He thinks he can hide himself by being inside the ocean. He looks back, the Sudarshan disc is following him inside the ocean. He goes inside the cave in a big tunnel and hides himself inside the cave. The disc is following him there also. Wherever he is going, he is seeing that the disc is following him and the disc is just behind his neck, about to kill him. So he's full of, fear, very afraid, very horrified.
and he's going everywhere and he doesn't know what to do. He is not getting any relief. Finally goes, approaches Lord Brahma. Brahma says, even I cannot do anything. I'm very sorry. If the Supreme Lord has, taken this decision, then who are we? We are all servants of the Supreme Lord. Then he goes to Kailasha, he goes to meet Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva he gave a similar reply, I'm very sorry, even I cannot do anything. And Lord Shiva and Brahma, they all say, actually this Sudarshan disk's fire, it's intolerable for us also. We are also afraid of the Sudarshan disk. So how can we protect you? And then Lord Shiva advises him, you please go and surrender at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Only He can protect you, because this is His disk, His energy. And then Durvasa Muni goes and he surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, falls at His lotus feet and says, please protect me. I now realize what a great offense I have done towards your devotee. I have now understood the power of devotional service. It was a great mistake on my part. Please pardon me. And then the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he starts glorifying his devotees and he says, what is the power of devotional service? And he tells that my devotees have surrendered everything. And they have given up all the material opulence, everything, and they have just surrendered unto me. So, how it is my duty to protect my devotees. And the Supreme Personality of Godhead gave a very nice example of how the Lord becomes controlled by the love of His devotees. Just like a husband is controlled by the love of his wife for two reasons. The wife is very chaste and the wife serves his husband very faithfully. So in the same way, because the devotees have completely surrendered themselves to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and are completely absorbed in their service, they have nothing for themselves. Everything is for the Supreme Lord. It becomes the duty of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to give protection to His devotees. And the Lord is never happy if His devotees are in pain. The example that is given, just like a father. If the father's children are in pain, definitely it is very painful for the father as well. Right? So in the same way, the Lord says, Ambarish Maharaj is my great devotee and I can't see them in pain, so I have to immediately act. The devotees are in the core of my heart and I am in the core of the heart of the devotees. So it is my duty to protect them. And he praised Ambarish Maharaj, praised the qualities of devotional service, and then finally he told Durvasa Muni that I cannot protect you, I cannot do anything, you have offended my devotee, that's a great offense on your part. So if you want relief from this suffering that has come upon you due to my Sudarshan disk, you have to go back and ask forgiveness from Ambarish Maharaj. And only if Ambarish Maharaj forgives you, you can be pardoned, you can be forgiven. And then Durvasa Muni goes back and then he meets Ambarish Maharaj and he falls at the feet of Ambarish Maharaj. And when he falls at the feet of Ambarish Maharaj is, very embarrassed because he's a great, elevated personality. And Ambarish Maharaj, although a greater devotee, but he's a very humble devotee, so he's feeling very embarrassed. And at that time, he starts offering prayers to this, because the Sudarshan is after him. So Ambarish Maharaj has to pacify the Sudarshan, and he starts offering prayers to the Sudarshan. There are very nice prayers, there is not much time. I'll just read out one prayer. This is a famous prayer, the Sudarshana prayer, which we chanted from the Bhagavatam during the installation of the Sudarshan Narasimha deity, both this Sudarshan and here and in the VK Hill temple. And he chants a lot of prayers. He says, O Sudarshan Chakra, you are fire, you are the most powerful sun, and you are the moon, the master of all luminaries. So like this he praises, you are the most favorite of Achyuta, you have thousands of spokes. And like this he starts praising and he says, kindly give shelter, tells the Sudarshan Chakra, kindly give shelter and be auspicious to this Brahmana. Kindly favor this poor Brahmana. If you favor this poor Brahmana, you will certainly be a favor for all of us. So like this he praises, and finally because of Ambarish Maharaj's, wanting Durvasa Muni to be pardoned, his life is spared. So here there are many things that we see. We don't have much time. Just 1 or 2 points I will say before ending. Here we see that Durvasa Muni was doing a lot of tapasya and was very knowledgeable. Now, tapasya and vidya, these two things are definitely very auspicious. Who doesn't want to have vidya and who doesn't want to be a tapasvasi? Yagna dana tapa na tyajyam. We are reading in the Bhagavad Gita. Never give up tapasya. It's very important. Even devotees do tapasya. But although tapasya and vidya are very auspicious, but if tapasya and vidya is with a person who is not gentle, then this tapasya and vidya becomes very dangerous. And this is exactly what happened to Durvasa Muni. Because he was not gentle, he used it, he became very envious he became very puffed up with the knowledge and the austerity that he had acquired and he had practiced. So, on the other hand, we see Maharaj Ambarish, although he did not practice any such great mystic tapasya and this speculative jnana and yoga, all this thing, he had the Supreme Personality of Godhead with him. So his powers were actually more than Maharaj Durvasa Muni's power, which Ambarish Maharaj realized after this whole incident. He realized that, my God, although I have nothing, but I have the entire power and entire benediction, mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So actually he was more powerful. But in spite of him realizing this fact that he was more powerful, Maharaj Ambarish was so humble, such a great devotee, he never took it that, he did this and it was because of him that, Maharaj Durvasa Muni was punished. He always maintained that humble approach. And he always gave the entire credit to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although it was actually because of his devotional service that the Supreme Personality of Godhead came and protected Ambarish Maharaj from the wrath of Durvasa Muni. So it is said in the Srimad, in the Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami says that pure devotional service attracts even Krishna. There's something that attracts Krishna, the supreme attractor Krishna, there's something that attracts him as well. That is pure devotional service. So pure devotional service is more powerful than Krishna because it is Krishna's internal energy. So this is the power of pure devotional service, and if you are just engaged in devotional service, one day it is possible for all of us to come to a platform of pure devotional service. And on that platform we will be able to experience, even now we are experiencing the reciprocation with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the kind of experience, the kind of reciprocation the Lord will have with us on that platform will be so great. This is the pastime. I will just end with this. There's a nice Mahatmya of this pastime which is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and it is said that anyone who chants this narration or even thinks of this narration about the activities of Maharaj Ambarish certainly becomes a pure devotee of the Lord. Just by thinking about this pastime, chanting, hearing this pastime, you can become a pure devotee of the Lord. And by the grace of the Lord, who hears this pastime, he becomes liberated and becomes a devotee without delay. So, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, one last line, a very nice line. How much we benefit by hearing the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Our minds are all crazy. We're all trying to control our mind. That's why the mind is called a mad mind. And Prabhupada writes that hearing the wonderful glories and the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the expert treatment for the mad mind. We'll end here. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai Gaur Premanand.